And we do have to get right into this, though, because it wasn't just one VR check. I don't know if I've seen this before since we've had VAR, where 3 different instances were reviewed on the same play. The ball going out of bounds at the end line, the ball then played in, and Joel Linton potentially for a foul on Gabriel. And then last but not least was Anthony Gordon, the goal scorer, onside as that ball kind of ricocheted back into his path, just inches away from the goal line. Should that have goal stood across all 3 of those places? Now, for our audience, I am a Gooner, so I'm going to trying to be as objective as possible here. But what do you think about that goal standing, given all those objections, if you will?
It's insane. It's insane. I mean, we do this too often. It's insane. Yeah. Look, I mean, to me, there weren't 3 because the first one, the line, we all know because we don't see it. God only knows why. But probably in this instance, because it was inconclusive, right? And you can see it because, the lines that you see drawn on social media, wherever it is, the overhead, which would have been nice to see, maybe showed or didn't show, right? So if it's inconclusive, it's inconclusive. Sometimes it does happen. You have to play on because even if it stayed in play, you ask a question, why wasn't there pressure? But I mean, for anyone to think that Joelinton didn't push and foul Gabriel, that to me is crazy. I mean, I cannot understand why that wasn't. Look, we are going to hear some convoluted explanation that in my book is going to be a horse manure. There's going to be some interpretation of the laws of the games that they're going to try to push it down our throat that nobody is going to buy. And Mr. Howard Webb is Mr. Apology. That's what we're going to probably hear on Monday. We should hear that. Probably see another referee, demoted for a game or not. It's just incredible. Anybody that's watched that, it's a clear foul. It doesn't really matter later, the third one, offside or not. That shouldn't matter because that in itself, this particular one, if they had any doubts about ball being in play, then the second was an easy decision because I just don't, it's impossible for me to think that there's some sane explanation for that not to be a foul.
Okay, like I said, I'm going to try to be objective. So in the first play, when the ball goes out of bounds or close to it, you can wave that off. And I will say Ben White did not close down the ball. You could see some of the Arsenal players did switch off. It wasn't just the back line. The midfielders, they didn't track back. They did switch off. So that is on them.
Absolutely.
That said, Joel Linton, there is no more clear thing. He has 2 hands in Gabriel's back. And the most obvious thing is if he's not there, would Gabriel have bent his body and missed the ball? That's like the easiest question to ask. Would he have somehow not been able to just put his head on the ball and flick it on, as he was attempting to do, without having a guy that's big and physical and strong with 2 hands outstretched into his lower back? It just seemed, as soon as we got to that one, I was like, oh, this seems obvious. And every time you think it seems obvious, it just doesn't go that way. It defies logic. And that's where the weird part is for VAR.
I just hope that I don't hear, you have to be stronger than this. Or maybe he was just resting his hands on his back because he wasn't. There's a clear motion going forward. It doesn't have to be a lot. It's a foul because if he stands, that ball still bounced around. It didn't go directly into the goal, right? You can always say that Gabriel maybe somehow could have slid and stopped it. It's a foul. I don't know how to explain because there's no explanation for it. And that's just the problem. I just, anything short of apology for that. And of course, as you've said it, we do need to talk about what happened before and what happened after, because I think Arsenal, as you've mentioned, and well played on that one in terms of pressure on the ball, and David Raya, in my opinion, being somewhat at fault for that goal as well. And maybe the entire way that Arsenal played. They fought, they showed physicality, they showed composure, they understood what's coming their way at a very difficult ground. But for the most part, as you said, didn't really create anything. So you sometimes say, well, there's always going to be one incident that may cost you a game, and then you still have to be able to show that you can overcome it. And fair play, this wasn't a perfect game from Arsenal by any means, but it's just sad that this is such an obvious and easy mistake to correct by VAR, and it wasn't. I don't understand why, because at the end of the day, I probably think that this would have been a draw.